He's also an author, and I'd like to welcome him to the show. We're going to talk a little bit about his research and what he does. So we'll get started.
Thank you very much, Russell. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to meet you as well. Tell my audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, excuse me. I'm just hearing a very big echo on there. Is that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I am a spiritual advisor and a space scientist and an alien contact specialist. And so I've spent my life researching both science, reality, and the paranormal. And now I tour around the country hosting alien contact events and giving presentations and going to conventions and things like that.
Yep, because that's where I met you, was at Metacon.
Yeah, that was a fun event.
Yeah, we had a ball there just walking around meeting everybody. Now, when you do these contacts, when you do come in contact, do they actually sound like you and I do when they communicate with you, or?
There's only a very small number of what we would consider to be alien beings that have that use vocal cords, and those, for example, tall whites that live in the desert outside of Las Vegas. And the reason they communicate verbally is because they have taken terrestrial DNA, basically human DNA, made bodies for themselves, environment suits for themselves, so they can live in our environment, and they very closely stuck to what humans are. But all of the species of alien that I know about have very strong spiritual or psychic abilities. They're telepathic. And so when they communicate with me or people in my groups, it comes through. To some people, it sounds like they're talking, but in fact, it's a direct message put into their minds.
Okay. When you do that, can you actually see them visually, or when they're communicating with you?
Yeah, so there's different ways that they can be present. If you're extremely lucky, you will have a physical, biological being standing in front of you. You can see them. That's exceedingly rare when you try to initiate that yourself. There are many people who have experiences. Often in the nighttime, an alien will appear in the corner of their room or looking at them through the window or at the foot of their bed. That's a physical visual sighting. But what I do most of the time is I initiate contact with them telepathically. So what I am doing is I'm meditating. I am tuning into my spirit, and then I'm astrally projecting to them, and I'm remote viewing or remote communicating with them. So images are coming into my mind, sounds may be coming into my mind's feelings, messages. And that might sound a little bit too non-physical, but when you have a group of people all doing the same activity at the same time, and different people are hearing the same thing, and seeing the same thing and receiving the same messages, then that adds a level of logical proof that is exceedingly convincing.
Yeah, that seems like similar to what we do in the paranormal field.
Yeah.
Where if everybody's getting all the same evidence, the same interactions, you got definite proof.
Yeah. I'm curious to know, when you do your paranormal investigations, what piece of equipment do you find to be the most reliable or the most likely to get some kind of evidence that is substantial?
My millimeter with REM pod. That's my go-to meter of choice on a paranormal investigation, because it also picks up your milligauss, it also picks up your ambient temperatures, and then the REM pod, they have to come in contact with that antenna to make those lights light up.
Yeah. So you're actually asking them questions, and the REM pod is giving you like a yes or no answer?
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep. And it's not so much it picks up too much electrical interference like a K2 meter does. K2 will pick up a cell phone, cameras. The MEL, not as much. It runs on a different frequency.
That's very cool.
So that's our main go-to for paranormal investigations.
Very cool. Well, I just bought myself a thermal imaging camera.
Okay.
I haven't used it yet in the field, but I'm excited about this.
Yeah, they are handy.
Yeah.
I've got one that takes still shots. When you come in contact with a thermal hit, you hit the trigger and it takes a still photo of it.
That is awesome.
And we're working on getting a FLIR one that does video.
Yeah. Well, I did some research on FLIR, and I was looking at the resolution of the image of FLIR compared with other makes. And I discovered that for the same price, because FLIR is a big name, for the same price, this one has twice the resolution. And I've tested it. And if you look at the reviews online, it's actually, I'm actually really impressed with this one. Just in case anybody's interested.
Another big piece of equipment would probably be good for you too is the SLS Connect camera.
Really?
Which maps them out as stick figures. So if you're coming in contact with one of them beings that's in a solid form, that camera's going to pick it up.
Okay. SLS.
You want to get one from Horn Paranormal. They make them. They make the best ones that are out there.
That's useful to know.
And that one doesn't map out tables, chairs, anything like that. It'll map out that physical being that's there. That's why we bought one like that for us. We set it in a room and just sit there. There'd be nobody in front of it, and all of a sudden you got that stick figure appearing.
Oh, I like that.
So that might be a little helpful tool. Do you guys use Geiger meters too while you're out there?
I do have one. I don't typically take it out with me, but one thing I did discover in one event is because you've got this background radiation, you've got cosmic rays coming in, so you've got this steady click, 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 click. And I held it upwards and I invited some aliens or beings to come in, and then it suddenly stopped clicking. And it was like something was above us, shielding the GM meter from those cosmic rays. That was pretty cool.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I have a buddy who uses one on paranormal investigations. And I was with him he helped me on an investigation. He had his Geiger meter, and we had it sitting in somebody's house. And it was sitting there trying to find a baseline reading. And it kept spiking a little high, like there was radiation in the house, but there was no radiation in there.
Yeah. I wonder why that is.
But this guy says he sees stuff in the skies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we were out there. We didn't see nothing in the skies that night.
Well, who knows? If you've got interdimensional travel, maybe that does open up some kind of a window for those cosmic rays or radiation to come through.
You've been out to Skinwalker Ranch?
Yeah.
How was that experience? Is it like what they show on TV?
Well, I just realized while I was on tour driving through Utah, that I would be passing close to Skinwalker Ranch, and I hadn't planned it. But that day I realized, hey, Skinwalker Ranch is on my route. There's no way I can pass up this opportunity. So I went there, and I was coordinating with my group online to see if they wanted to astrally project in and help support me psychically or spiritually. And I was trying to get a message to the people who are on the ground there that I'm on my way, and would they be open to me showing up? We didn't manage to get through to them. I did turn up at the front sort of entrance. I don't know, it's probably ridiculous, like 11 o'clock in the evening. And I knew I wasn't going to get in, but I wanted to take a little video of me at the entrance. But they're very tight on security there, and all of their floodlights turned on and sirens went off, and it's like, you should not be here. You need to leave immediately before you get in trouble with the police. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to get back in my car and leave. But I did find an overlooking hillside or mountainside, which is close and does overlook the property, and it's on public land. So I parked there, and I set up my equipment, and I started to meditate, and I was connecting with my high-level remote viewers who were online with me, and we did this meditation. We remote viewed to them, and we could see ourselves approaching the anomaly. We stopped outside the anomaly in the sky spiritually. We linked up hands with each other, spiritual hands, and we asked permission to come inside. And everything I do is done on a foundation of peace, love, and happiness. So we all just radiated love and gave them the message that we're here in a respectful way. We're not trying to poke the nest, as you know, that term they use, and we would like to understand the matter and form a constructive relationship with them. And we moved towards that anomaly, and we were allowed inside. And we had a communication with the beings that are living in that aerial anomaly. And the communication, they were very sort of just rational, logical, I guess a bit like Scott. There wasn't a whole lot of emotion there. They weren't like loving and embracing, like, we welcome you, which is what a lot of beings are like. Also, they weren't aggressive. They weren't saying, no, you can't be here. They understood, they're telepathic, they understood why we were there. They could see we were genuine. And really, all they wanted to communicate to us was, we don't like what those people, what those humans are doing down below us. We would like them to stop. They didn't request that we make them stop. They just told us we would like them to stop. And so I made a little, just a short, I don't know, 10-15 minute documentary about that, and through that online, just in case anybody wants to see that. I would love to be able to offer my services to those people in Skinwalker Ranch, because I do admire a lot of what we do. But when you're trying to establish peaceful communications with different species, and you're launching explosive rockets at them, and you're firing flamethrowers at them, that's not what I consider to be best alien contact practice.
Sort of like same with the paranormal field. You want to go in with that respect.
Yeah.
Because you're trespassing on their territory.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And a lot of people don't do that. They go in there with that disrespect, and they wonder why they poked the bear a little bit.
Yeah.
Is that probably why they're killing the cattle out there? They say they find cattle dead all the time out there at Skinwalker Ranch.
Well, there's two or three different possibilities for why they're doing that. And I don't know what the answer is. It's very likely, it's probable. Let me rephrase that. It's certainly possible that it is human misdirection, that you've got whoever it is, the governmental agencies out there, the hidden dark forces of humanity trying to misdirect humans. I think some of the stuff that goes on there is misdirection. I doubt very much that it would be the intelligent alien beings that are living up there in the anomaly. They don't have any need to mutilate cattle.
Right.
But if you think about what the Skinwalker myth, legend is all about,
Right.
what those stories are all about, what you've got is a situation where the beings up there, in the past, they realized they don't want to be disturbed by these human creatures on the ground, so they set up defense mechanisms. And people on Skinwalker Ranch are encountering a lot of these defense mechanisms. Skinwalkers, in my opinion, were most likely genetically engineered, which for these beings is like, it's so easy to engineer, genetically engineer any kind of being at all, both physical and spiritual engineering. Human beings are only just on the edge of being able to genetically. They created the Skinwalkers as guards, sort of guard dogs that roam around the place, and it might be that they require occasional animals to eat.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because I mean they were Navajo witch doctors at one time, and we actually have experience dealing with skinwalkers. We had to do a skinwalker case in a cemetery,
Really?
and my father got grabbed by one by the wrist,
Wow.
and it made him terribly sick for the rest of the night. And I about got impaled by a fence post by one. It shapeshifted to an owl, and we heard something in the woods, and lucky one of my investigators had the flashlight and said, "Don't move one more step or you're going to get impaled."
Wow.
Yeah, we never went back to that cemetery. Went during the day a few times, but we didn't go back. We haven't been back.
Did you get any of those experiences on video?
Yeah, I've got the bruise on video of my dad's arm. What happened was I was at the car getting equipment, so he decided to walk up in the cemetery. The rest of my investigators were in the back by the woods. This red-tailed hawk flew up from the tree. So my dad saw it. He walked over towards it, and you know a red-tailed hawk, they usually fly away. They don't stay in the tree. Well, this pinned him up against the tree. And then finally disappeared. One of my members told me they heard something in the woods, so we went up there just before dark, and here's that red-tailed hawk sitting in the tree in the woods looking at us. So, and they say they travel about 50 miles a night.
Yeah.
Looking to make other skinwalkers.
Yeah, could be. I don't know.
And that could be possibly what they're seeing out there as well, too, because the way they shapeshift. I mean, they'll shapeshift to a deer, a coyote, dog.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I don't know. I do know that when I was there, after my meditation, I started to hear sounds of heavy foot sort of at the edge of a little reservoir there, breaking branches as it was walking around, and it was close to me, and I was being swarmed by mosquitoes anyway, and I just thought, okay, I'm just a little bit too uncomfortable now. So I decided, okay, now is probably a good time to leave, because I'm not sure if I trust that a skinwalker wouldn't hurt me.
Oh yeah, they will. They'll hurt you. If you're invading their space, they will. They're aggressive. Have you been out to Area 51 at all, like on the outskirts of it?
Not close to Area 51. I have with the tall whites. I went and camped out 4 hours drive into there's a really large wildlife refuge there, the biggest wildlife refuge in the US, outside of Alaska, and you can drive if you have a very good vehicle, off-road, sort of off-road or high clearance 4-wheel drive vehicle. You can go a long way up, level with Creech Air Force Base, and basically you're in between Nellis Air Force Base and Area 51. And that's as close to Area 51 as I've got. But we had a lot of interactions with the tall whites when we were out there, so that was very cool.
Oh, nice. Now, you said they'll talk like a human being will, those tall whites will?
Yeah. I'm not sure that they can speak like verbally in the English language. What people have often heard when the tall whites are around is the tall whites making sounds that are high frequency, like bird sounds.
Okay.
I get the feeling that their names can be very complicated bird-like chirps and squeaks and very hard to understand. But spiritually, they can put meaning into our minds. And what happened was we were out there in a circle meditating, and one of our group started to feel like their body was changing and becoming sort of overtaken by one of these tall whites. Not in an aggressive way, but basically so that he could channel them.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that this guy was talking, but he was not himself.
Right.
And I started to communicate with the tall whites and ask them questions. And we had conversation with them. We talked spiritually to them through this man who was verbalizing everything that they were saying. We had conversations with them, and we confirmed that they live in the mountains in the surrounding area. I asked, do you live under the ground? They said in the mountains. They were open to communication with us. We went around and everybody told the tall whites our names, and these tall whites greeted each person individually. And they made comments to each person, like they called one of our members, whose name is Elizabeth, Lizzie. And nobody ever calls her Lizzie, but afterwards she said, "That's what I used to be called. That's sort of inside.
Oh, wow.
That's her name inside." And that these beings, by calling her that, it was like confirmation to her that they were seeing inside her.
Mm-hmm.
And we communicated with a tall white that had taken on a human name for our benefit of George.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah. And I had my night vision camera, Psionics night vision camera here.
Okay.
And I'm panning around late at night the horizon, and as I didn't notice until I got home, but there was in the distance what appears to be like a little dark portal open up, and a bright spiritual plasmic transdimensional vessel comes out of this portal and sort of whips down behind the mountain. Now, I'm an astrophysicist, and I'm looking for some kind of other explanation. I also used to fly, and there's nothing else that can be. That's not a meteorite. It had sort of wisps of plasma that were coming around sideways to it, which is not what a meteorite appears like. And yeah, I managed to get that on video.
Oh, awesome. Have you ever checked out the Joplin spook light?
No, what's that?
It's this big ball of light that appears in the sky in Joplin. They've had NASA out there, the military's been out there, nobody can ever explain it. It just randomly appears at night out in the sky.
Wow. Where is that in the world?
Joplin, Missouri. It's down southern Missouri.
Really?
They think it's something, maybe some people think it's aliens, other people think it's ghosts. So they have everybody, investigators, going out there to try to debunk that Joplin spook light, and nobody's ever come up with a conclusion on it.
Well, that is fascinating. I think there are a lot of lights that are I'm not sure, but it sounds comparable. There are a lot of sort of spiritual orb-like luminous things that are appearing in the sky. I mean, above Skinwalker Ranch, you get those appearing. And we know they're luminous because when those white balls of something that appear in the sky, we know they're luminous because at night time they give off light. But they're common. I'm starting to think they're all over the place. I went to I did a CE5 event in California somewhere about 2 months ago, and they have like a local legend of a bull, glowing bull thing like that they call Goldie, that appears in their sky and goes in and out of mountains. And we did a CE5 event. We're meditating. We're reaching out to Goldie to see if it will appear. And we saw along the horizon a light approaching sort of diagonally towards us, coming closer and closer. And I'm looking at that thinking, now are those the head of an airplane? If they are, when it comes closer to the side, we will see the flashing lights, we'll see the green light, the red light. But that didn't happen. It got closer and closer to the edge of this mountain horizon, and went all the way down below the level of the horizon, keeping the same intensity of light. I think that was a comparable phenomenon.
Oh, wow. Yeah, they say that Joplin spook light is probably about that big around, and they say it's bright. I think it appears at midnight about every night down there in Joplin.
Wow, I should do an expedition down there sometime.
Yeah, see what you can communicate with.
Yeah, maybe we should team up on an event sometime.
Yeah, definitely. I think my team would be for it. I know you just did an event with Andrea Perrin not too long ago. I saw. How did that go?
That was really good. There's lots of different methodologies for reaching out spiritually with these beings, and there are a few big names out there of people doing it in different ways. And what I have found, based on my experiences with people, is that Andrea has sort of the purest of hearts, the purest of intentions. She would not be launching flamethrowers at them. She likes to go out and to sing to them, from a place of love. And she has plenty of her own experiences with them. And she's in a documentary that came out recently called We Are Not. And if anybody's interested in this whole subject of human-initiated contact with aliens, that's a very interesting documentary to watch that covers pretty much the whole subject. We are not alone.
Yeah, if you have a link, feel free to share it to my page so my viewers can check it out.
Absolutely, I will.
I met Andrea at Metacon when I met you, and I heard she went out there one night, and went outside, put a cigarette in her mouth, started singing My Way to him, and they said the whole sky just lit right up when she started singing.
Well, I went out there one night when she was out there, and that's what she does. She goes outside and she sings, and yeah, there's usually a cigarette somewhere. But lots of people saw different things, and I did try to capture something on my camera. I didn't myself manage to capture anything other than Starlink, which, the chain of satellites that came over the top, which was very impressive. But it's been confirmed to me that she really is in contact with these beings. That they do appear in the sky. A lot of times when these beings come in, they are just outside of our three-dimensional space. So often people need a little bit of psychic perception to see them, but sometimes not.
I'm wondering if you could use like a 3D camera to see them.
Okay. A 3D camera, is that like uses LiDAR or laser or something to map?
I have a buddy who has a 3D digital camera that we use for paranormal, that we use for like catching orbs and stuff, because if you can catch an orb on 3D, then you have something, because most of, like, with your paranormal, your orbs are dust and stuff like that. And like we use ultraviolet cameras also, which does it's called a full spectrum camera. Which will debunk your orbs and your dust and stuff like that, and it helps you catch your dark shadow figures. And that might be another piece of equipment for you to try out there too, as well as a full spectrum camera.
Yeah, I bought a full spectrum sort of GoPro type. It's not GoPro, but it's like
it's a modified. It's called the Ghost Pro. I've got one.
Okay.
But you really needed a good illuminator that's going to illuminate that GoPro, because it doesn't have much of a distance to it.
Yeah, that was the issue. It's very wide field of view. What I was looking for when I was using it was to see if anything was coming in the sky, and because it's a wide field of view, you can't even make out stars. So even though I had ultraviolet illuminators, I wasn't able to pick up on anything.
See, we bought it's actually a digital camcorder about like this, and it's full spectrum, and it's got the full spectrum light on the bottom that extends out for almost a mile.
Wow. So if me or any of your viewers are hoping to see examples of these like captures from these cameras that you're talking about, these are all on your where's the best place for them to go? Your website?
My YouTube, Beyond Life Paranormal Research, the Missouri edition. There's a clip on there. I put a clip together where I'm using night vision and full spectrum cameras.
Fantastic. I will check that out.
Yeah, you'll see a video where I'm doing a solo in a haunted movie theater, and then you'll see one of my former members and I up on old balconies, and that's in full spectrum. And then you'll see us at Waverly Hills Sanatorium, and then Missouri State Penitentiary.
Wonderful. What do you consider to be the best recording, either photo or video recording, that you've picked up on, that you've managed to get in your investigations?
It would be at this house that we did here in Chillicothe, Missouri, a friend of mine's house. We had set up the DVR cameras, and we left the house to go eat dinner. And we came back, and when I reviewed the evidence footage, you see the curtain on the window is probably open about that much, and you see this face just kind of come in like this, fade out quick, and then come back in slow, and then fade back out and disappear.
That's great.
And then another one was at a hotel that we investigated, and I was solo in the library in the back. My other two investigators were up front, and this metal lid on this toolbox picked up and slammed down on its own. And nobody's near it. And I go over there, and I find where the sound came from, and I recreated it. And still can't explain it, how that did that.
That is very cool.
So that's one of the other best piece of evidence, and several EVPs we got too with our digital recorders. The haunted movie theater, I've got about probably 40 clear EVPs out of there.
Wow.
And so that's pretty much some of the big evidence we got. I got some on my TikTok page as well, where my millimeter and REM pod were in an open field, and it's going off at an old massacre site.
Yeah.
And there's a place up here in Bramer called Hans Mill, and it's an old Mormon massacre site, and it's just an open field, so there's no electricity down there, nothing to be setting those off. And we had motion lights set up, and all the motion lights were kicking on all the tree stumps, and
that sounds wonderful.
Yeah, so we pretty much do the same thing, especially with the paranormal too. So we're both going after the unseen.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, I have a lot of knowledge about spirits and the basic mechanics of what happens when we die, and these spirits or ghosts or whatever you want to call them. They're in the same space, just extra dimensional spaces around us that a lot of these alien beings are inhabiting.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes sense that we would use using some of the same equipment. And a lot of these beings actually, even though the traditional idea of an alien is a biological grey-like alien standing physically in front of you, there are countless trillions of aliens all around the universe, and when they advance spiritually enough that they can astrally project, they can travel their conscious minds or spirits around the universe, then we can connect with them, they can connect with us,
Right.
and a lot of beings coming in are coming in a spiritual way, and they basically are very much like ghosts or human spirits.
Now, when you do these retreats the next day, do you have, like what us investigators we call a paranormal hangover?
Explain what a paranormal hangover is.
It's where you're feeling your body's drained. It feels like you've been out all night drinking.
Huh. Well,
Especially
I
because
can't say that I have. You think
they're
that's
using
like because of
energy to drain you?
Spirit?
Yeah, they're using your energy to drain you. So you just feel drained. All you want to do is sleep, and especially when you're letting them use your energy.
I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Especially when you're letting them use your energy to tap into you and stuff like that. It drains your physical energy to where you're tired, and you basically feel like you got a hangover.
Well, when we have our encounters with aliens, certainly, they're always very positive and uplifting. And we actually meet with some of these beings that give us healing. We actually know the name of one called Tuk Tuk, who comes to us and spiritually helps us to heal. So that's the opposite of being drained. We had in the event that I hosted fairly recently in Shawnee Mission Park in Kansas. We had an energy healer who had spent all day healing people of dark energies, and they had picked up during that day of healing some of the darknesses. They were feeling drained when they arrived at the event, but then a reptilian being appeared close to her, identified itself as Icod, and put its hands on her back and proceeded to heal her and give her positive energy. And by the end of the session, she was fully healed. So if it's common for people to get some kind of a spiritual hangover after a paranormal investigation, I would think there's two possibilities. One is that it's unintentional. These spirits are coming close to you, and maybe they just don't know how to control that energy as well as aliens do, and it's draining you. I mean, certainly electrical equipment drains often in presence of alien beings.
Same with paranormal too.
Yeah, but do you think any of it might be intentional? Do you think you might be encountering beings that are actually spiritually attacking you?
It could be. I mean, they also need the energy to like manifest themselves to how you and I are looking at each other, so you can see them in physical form, because they're made up of EMF, electromagnetic fields, so, and static. So that's why they drain your batteries and stuff like that. And we go through endless supplies on investigations, because I mean, we're at an investigation from anywhere from like 3 o'clock in the afternoon to like 6, 7 in the morning.
Wow, that's a long investigation.
Yeah, we do a lot of residential, so we're in people's houses quite a bit and helping people with that stuff.
I think I would feel like I had a hangover if I didn't sleep all night.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, there's plenty of times I've drove home and I'm trying to stay awake. And especially we deal with a lot of darker stuff too, the demonic entities as well.
Oh, okay.
So, and those are physically draining, because they'll put up a fight, especially when you're doing a cleansing. They don't want to leave.
Right.
So they're gonna fight you hand and foot till you get them out that door.
How do you go about doing a cleansing if there are dark forces there?
It's a whole scenario. A lot of times we'll have priests come in, use the holy water, and then, like, I'm part Native American, so I do the Native American traditional way with the sage and all that. And there's a certain way you got to do in directions through a house, and especially you got to clean every nook and cranny where they can hide. They thrive in dark areas, your attics, your basements, your closets. So we have to clean all that. We have to open the door, windows, any place that they can exit out. Once you start smoking that place out, they usually don't stay. They don't like the smell of it.
Wow. And are there incantations or words you have to say?
Yeah, we usually do prayers. We'll do like a deliverance prayer on the house, and we'll have the homeowners, because they need to take their house back. A lot of times the homeowners will join us and take their house back. And a lot of people don't realize they have more power over it than it does them. But they're scared because they live on fear.
Yeah.
And that's what they feed off of. And I'm sure probably your beings too, if you fear them, they're probably going to mess with you a little more because they know you're scared.
Well, I've only ever had positive experiences with non-human intelligences. I think because some of them do look scary. I mean, some of them look like classic monsters from our movie.
Right.
When people see some of them, they're instantly fearful of them, and they interpret them in a negative way. And people are so judgmental, they will see something that they don't like the look of, and they will think it has negative intent towards them.
Right.
Like spiders. A lot of people hate spiders, and most spiders will leave you alone, they don't mean you any harm. The worst we encounter is if we psychically, spiritually go up to an alien and say, hey, can we communicate with you? And they turn and they look at us and say, no. That's basically the worst that sometimes happens. There are some places, actually, we did a remote viewing into. I had like an ancestral in my family tree. I had an ancestral. Got to say the word right. Ancestral mystery on my family tree, and I didn't tell the people why they were remote viewing too, but the target, the blind target, was the gravestone of my ancestors.
Oh wow!
And usually we can remote view into any area and see what's there. When people were trying to astrally project to this location, they were being forced. They felt like they were being forced away. One person even felt like there was almost spikes, like almost little knife spiking at them when they were trying to go in there. And that wasn't alien. That was human spirit saying, no, we don't want you to intrude upon our space. That's the worst that's happened. If people are fearful or scared, then at an alien contact event, the beings will pick up on that telepathically. And they will either change their appearance to something that's a little less scary for us, or they will just not let us see them as clearly.
Okay.
Or sometimes they back away completely if there's too much fear.
Well, let's see. That's like the demonic entities. They'll actually disguise themselves as a regular human being, and then their intent is to do physical harm and hurt somebody. They'll act like your best friend and then turn around and stab you in the back when you become weak to it.
Wow. Yeah, that's not good.
No, we've dealt with countless cases of that. It's not fun. I've got some battle wounds on me from a few of them. I've got scars on me from them.
Yeah. Am I right that you sort of got into this a little bit because of people like Ed and Lorraine Warren?
That and I had my first experience at 6 years old, so.
Really?
With the paranormal. I saw a Civil War soldier in my bedroom door one night at 3 a.m, so. So kind of as I got older, I started seeing more and more, plus I also have abilities as well, and so it kind of wanted me to get into it and help people, and then I followed Ed and Lorraine, and I'm also related to Ed and Lorraine Warren. So I felt as part of my legacy, I got to carry on their work and help people, and because they don't know where to turn. It's not like they can call a cop and say, hey, I got a ghost in my house. You need to come arrest it.
Yeah. So did they teach you stuff? Did you teach each other?
Actually, I didn't find out till beginning of this year that I was related to Ed and Lorraine. When I started doing some ancestry stuff, I found a cousin in Florida who's related to him, and she's actually my double cousin. And then I started tracing it back. She started tracing it back, and it come to find out I'm related to my dad's side of the family is related to Ed Warren, and then John Zaffis and all them.
Wow, that's quite a discovery.
Yeah, I was shocked when I found out, but I've been doing this about 30 years now.
Wow.
I started at a very young age, and then I also had Rob Dermarest from Ghost Hunters International teach me on investigating and stuff, what equipment to get, and there's a funny story how I met Rob. Was I used to be a DJ, and I made him a mixtape when he was with GHI still, and he says, for making me a mixtape, I'll help you get started in the paranormal. So I started a branch of this group back in 2006, back in New York State, and then I moved here in 2012 and started this branch.
That's great.
And this one's been running ever since, and we're booked out for the whole year already. So.
And do you feel like you have a purpose for what you're doing, a purpose or a goal? I mean, obviously I'm on board with you. This is all very fascinating and exciting. It's fun and there's adventure, but is there like a deeper purpose?
Yeah, to keep my family name alive, that, and to help people, because the stuff we see that kids go through, I mean, we deal with a lot of cases with kids getting hurt and bothered by this, and I mean, you'll get some, they're being bothered by something in their home. Somebody don't believe them, they check them into a psych ward and they're on schizophrenic medication.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, they got something going on in their home that is not schizophrenic related. And they don't know where to turn and who to call to help, and not many teams are willing to go in and deal with a demonic entity like we are. Because a lot of that is more higher up. You need to be a man of God. Like us, we'll go in, get the evidence for the diocese, and then we turn it over to them if they need an exorcism or anything like that.
Wow. So you have like an established relationship with priests or people who will come and give some kind of exorcism?
I work with one of the world-renowned demonologists, Farrah Rose. She used to be Farrah Rose Deal, now she's Farrah Rose Perry. And she's out of Springfield, Missouri. Her and her husband were on the show A Haunting, and she was good friends with Ed and Lorraine Warren, and she's kind of my mentor with the demonology stuff. And so I just make a phone call to her, and then she takes it from there.
That's great. So you mentioned that you had abilities also. How do you describe your abilities?
Mine is they're more where I can see them. Once in a while I can hear them. But a lot of it's feeling. I can go into a house and feel when something's heavy or it's a regular spirit. Most of your demonic, you're going to feel heavier stuff and things like that. But like one investigation we went and did, I dropped some paperwork off to the owner of the location. We were standing there talking to her, and I was watching something over her shoulder. And I don't publicly tell anybody when I'm in a location what I'm seeing, because they're already freaked out enough. You don't want to freak them out anymore. So I kind of keep it to myself, and then if we leave, go out to dinner, I'll bring it up to my team while we're eating dinner and stuff like that, what I've seen. But the owner of this place, when we finally did the investigation, she asked me, she says, I got to ask you, what'd you see over my shoulder? I saw you watching something. I was like, I didn't want to tell you then because you were freaked out. Now that we've done the investigation, there was a man, tall, he had his hair parted on the side. It's kind of red hair, wore glasses, kind of in a 1920s suit. She says, well, you just described the former manager of this movie theater. Another house we did, we were sitting there interviewing the clients, and we got called there because of their daughter. And I said, who's the lady that's walking up and down the hallway? with long gray hair and a white gown. They were like, "We see her about 3 o'clock every morning." And I said, "There's also a man here that's bald, kind of stocky, wears a flannel shirt, coveralls." She says, "You just described my grandfather."
That's impressive. So you can see with quite a lot of detail
Yep.
these entities. That must make it a whole lot easier knowing where to point your
Yeah,
cameras
it
and things.
does. And then I've got my father who's got the same abilities as well too, but he can also read the living too. So it's, and sometimes it's a blessing, sometimes it's a curse. Like when you go near cemeteries, it gets crazy because everybody wants to come at you because they know you can communicate with them. That's why we don't do very many cemeteries unless we're called for them.
Yeah. So have you ever done mediumship? Have you uh, helped people to communicate with their loved ones?
Years ago, I used to, when I started getting into my abilities, I started doing readings and stuff for people, but I haven't done them in so long. I don't really like doing them for people because if you're not accurate, you don't want to get somebody's hopes all up and then they end up getting shut down. So I don't like doing them. My dad can do them. He can, with him reading people, he can, and but I don't really get into that. I rather use mine more for the investigative part of it. When I go into a location and I'll know, like when we do a cleansing and stuff, if it's gone, if it decides it wants to stay and it's hiding somewhere, we usually can pick up where it's hiding.
That's cool.
So
Do you also see auras around people when you look at living people?
sometimes if I really tap into it, I can.
And do you ever see anybody that you think, maybe they're not human?
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen some, especially your demonic, because when you're sensitive, they know you can see them at their true form. That's why they don't like animals. They'll try to kill your animals because, like, your cats and your dogs are very sensitive to it. Your children can see them just as well too.
That's fascinating. I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about the nature of demons and whether they are some kind of, fallen angel, or whether they some kind of they used to be human but they've become warped and dark, or whether there's some other kind of spirit of some other kind of species like a Neanderthal, or going back in time that they're still hanging around. Do you have any uh, evidence or knowledge or theories about what they might actually be?
Uh, Basically, sometimes they can be your regular spirits. I mean, you get some of those that try to act demonic and they're not really demonic, they're just malicious.
Yeah.
We run into countless of those where we'll get called into a location, oh, we've got something demonic in here. Well, we go in there and it ends up being just a regular malicious spirit that's just trying to scare the homeowner because they're invading their territory. They lived there once before.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize your regular spirits were people once too. They're just like how you wouldn't like somebody breaking into your house and coming in there and ransacking, moving their stuff in. So that's basically how they are.
Yeah.
And then you get the ones that don't realize they died unexpectedly. They don't realize they're dead. They still got unfinished business here. And they're not wanting to move on. Or you get the ones that do move on, but they still come back down to check. Like we have one location that we had a demonic entity in that was actually partially possessing somebody, and were able to get rid of it. But the former homeowner, he comes back to visit because he likes her grandkids. So he'll come back, check on them, and then he'll go on his merry way for months on end, and then he'll come back again. Which is okay as long as he's not hurting nobody, he's not hurting any kids, and he's just happy to see him. He's just checking on his house.
Yeah.
I currently live in a haunted house as well, too.
Really?
Yep. I've had 3 confirmed deaths in my house.
Wow. Do you see the spirits of those people around?
Oh, yeah. One of them's my mom, actually. I lost my mom in 2018 to cancer, so she passed away in my house. She comes back once in a while to visit. I actually had a medium spotter with me one day, went to check on a client, and the client had abilities, and I'm standing there talking to her. She says, "Who's that tall lady standing next to you, a little shorter than you are, with long brown hair, blue eyes?" I'm like, "You just described my mother." She says, "Well, she's standing right next to you." So I think she's kind of one of my spirit guides. And
That's
then
nice.
she'll come back
That's
and torment my father a little bit, so.
nice.
Because they used to pick on each other even when she was alive, they would pick on each other.
Yeah. It is nice to have this knowledge that there is life after death. To have confirmation of that, to know that one day, when we finally pass away ourselves, we will be able to be with our family, friends, loved ones again.
Yep, and a lot of your loved ones, when they pass away, a lot of them will hang here waiting for their husband or their wife to pass on, and then they'll live together.
Yeah.
And we'll get calls on that too, and that's what I explain to people about that a lot of your loved ones will hang around until your parent passes away, your other parent, and then they'll just leave together.
So do you like have a business like where people call you?
Yep. We're listed on Google Beyond Life Paranormal Research Missouri. And when you type in paranormal investigators in Missouri, we're the first ones that usually pop up on the list. And we don't charge for an investigation or cleansing. We do it all for free.
That's good of you.
In fact, we're getting ready to go on one tomorrow night with Raven's Eye Paranormal. Which you actually probably know her, Julie Couch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're going to help them on a case tomorrow night.
Oh, what's that case about?
A lot of it's confidential, so we can't really I can't really go into the details. All I know, it's got kids involved, and it's not a very good case. It's going to be a rough one.
Well, best wishes with that to you and to Julie and everybody else involved.
Yeah, I just met Julie. We were at the KC Spirit and Paranormal Fair here not too long ago for 3 days, and I met Julie and her husband there. So we all decided to team up and help each other out with cases, because she's got cases, I've got them. So we figured just tag team them and knock them all out. Because we're already booked into next year already. So. And
have you had any cases where there's been just a really satisfying resolution to the case where you've been able to help a family or a person in a way that's like, yes, that was worth it.
Yep. Yeah, we've had quite a few of them, especially when you're going in that house and you're seeing these kids crying and they're scared and the family's scared and they're talking to you, and I mean there's tears coming down their face, their life's being ruined. And then when we come in there and we do that investigation, I mean, we're not going to come in there and tell you your house is haunted. We're going to try to debunk what we can, and then we let our cameras and everything else and all the evidence do the talking for that. But when we do that initial cleansing to see the smile on their faces, their house is back to normal, because we cleanse people too. We cleanse pets. And you see them kids, they're happy, they're coming up to you, giving you hugs. And we did one case where these kids wouldn't talk. Their mother hadn't slept in a week. We came in there, we got the kids to talk. I pulled out the equipment and showed them all the cool gear we got, and they thought that was the highlight of the day. They got to see all this cool equipment coming into their house, and the one kid's like, "Are you the Ghostbusters?" I'm like, "No, we don't have proton packs." But when we cleansed them, we gave them all necklaces for protection, and before they left for the night, they all gave us hugs.
That's
and they've
lovely.
never. The mother says they've never done that. So to see that you actually touch somebody is a big thing for us. Like when we did that lecture at KC Spirit Paranormal Fair, we ended up had a packed house. The room was full. There wasn't an empty chair. And to see the amount of people we actually were able to get through to and touch about what we do, what we deal with, and especially with kids. And there was actually a little girl sitting in there with her grandparents to listen to what we do. And we actually, several people had tears in their eyes. Because, I mean, we've seen everything from possession, the partial possession, the upside down crosses getting scratched into people, eyes rolling in the back of their heads. They're talking in different languages.
So you're really able to help people. You're really making the world a better place.
Yep.
That's wonderful.
And people don't realize spiritual warfare, it's real. It's out there. And the way this world is going now, with all this negative energy flowing around, with all these wars and the economy and the violence, it's just a breeding ground for it. And you feed into that negative, it's going to latch on to you too.
Yeah.
And that's like there's people out there knocking what my cousins Ed and Lorraine do. I mean, they're the pioneers of what we do. They paved the way for us. They were the ones that are willing to answer those phone calls at 1, 2 in the morning and going out to people's houses, dealing with these darker entities and trying to help these people. But you get a little bit of fame and people want to knock it and stuff like that, and
Oh yeah.
make up rumors. Make up rumors about them that aren't even true. And
I was just going to say, it seems like anybody that's doing true good out in the world, really helping people in the public eye, they will get attacked. There will be dark forces out there, whether it's people or non-human, but they will make stuff up, and they will do whatever they can to bring those good people down.
Well, we just hit our time limit. I'd like to thank you for joining me. If anybody wants to book you for events, how can they get a hold of you?
Yeah, on Facebook, my name is Rupert Guy. So you can just add me as a friend, or send me a private message saying that you saw me on your show, and I will point them in the right direction.
All right.
Thank you very much, Russell. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Same here. Keep in touch, and maybe we'll get together on an event or something.
That sounds wonderful.
All right. Thanks again.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, everybody, for joining me. Have a good night, everyone.